a suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Yep, straighten up right, because if you're heading to court, you're going to need to look smart and you'll need a decent lawyer. David Whiting is that person. Melbourne solicitor who dispenses free legal advice. David, hello.
Hello, Virginia.
How are you travelling out there? Can we get you back into the studio sometime soon? Do you reckon maybe even after this weekend? What do you think?
Oh, that's entirely open. That's a question for your gatekeeper, is it not?
Yeah.
The answer would, I think the answer is yes on my understanding of the regulations, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, everything changes. But yes. Hopefully we'd love to do that and we can get you back and have a long chat. Did we have any homework or any news from last week?
Well, there was no homework, but I have a good news story.
Oh, yes.
Peter from South Dandenong rang last December about a car that he had purchased, third car of the same brand, had a diesel motor, and diesel motors these days come with diesel particulate filters as part of their anti-pollution equipment.
Yes.
And his wasn't working. So I suggested that he go off to VCAT and that he look at that stage at a case involving a very expensive diesel that had gone to VCAT. And out of that, he was able to... He issued his $486 application at VCAT. Mm-hmm. He's now driving in a new car. The dealer replaced his vehicle.
Wow.
In the 5 months it took to replace the vehicle, he had 11 loan cars. So things take a while,
yes.
But essentially he's been with a car for probably since February, and he's now just got his own brand new car delivered.
Did they reimburse the rental bills as well?
No. They provided the cars.
Oh, they provided the cars. Oh, I see.
Yes,
right.
they will have been demo models from the dealership.
Oh, they were being reasonable and nice. So it's actually worthwhile complaining.
Yes.
Brand new car.
Yes. Yeah, I think he's very happy.
Yeah, I would imagine. What colour is it? Do we know?
I knew I should ask, but I didn't.
Of course, you've got to ask. You've got to always ask what colour it is.
Oh, okay. I tend to ask how large is the engine. That's, yes.
Yeah, different strokes.
Okay.
1300 222 774. We can offer you some free legal advice if you'd like to get on the blower. Stephen, Thomastown, you're first up. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I've been diddled by a really nasty con person. My dog was involved in a fight, and each dog bit each other. And because I felt very embarrassed about it, straight away we didn't know what to do, and I'm an animal lover. I said, we'll go halves on the vet bill. We took him to the vet, and
together.
You took
the dogs together to the vet, did you?
We took them actually separately, but they both went to the same vet. This guy said he'd moved into the area, didn't have a vet. I said, come to my vet. They're really great. So we went, and his dog was bitten once in a leg, and it required a bit of surgery, and my dog was bitten twice and was bleeding all over the ear and another spot. Anyway, the bill was going to be up to $1,300, and I'm a pensioner, and I felt, I felt partly responsible because both dogs do it. I said, well, why don't we both go halves on the bill?
So what happened then, Steve?
And he actually offered half the bill. So they went. Then he said to me, look, I've just started a job. I only get paid monthly. I don't get paid till Friday. And I don't know what to do. And I said, well, I don't want the dog to lose out on this.
So you paid the bill?
Steve, I think the short answer is...
side, and then when
the short answer is that you can sue him for the money that you paid on his behalf. The long answer is it might cost you more than $650 to get there.
Can I get the costs off that? Of suing as well, because
you'll get some of them, but you won't get all of them. But it is possible for you to sue.
Yeah, because the bill, I'm a pensioner, I earn $300 a week, and the thing is that when I called him and off the phone to get the money, he told me he had never any intention to pay, and I had a mate listen to it on the phone.
Steve, stop there. The question is this. You're not suing him for the damages to the dog. You're suing him on the agreement pursuant to which he agreed to pay $650 towards the cost of fixing both dogs. I just can't tell you that at the end of the day you will not end up with the $650 and your costs in full. And it's also, you need to consider that this person might move again, in which case you would end up paying the costs and not getting the $650.
So are you advising that Steve just walks away from this?
I'm saying, in practical terms, yes, because I wouldn't be confident of getting Stevie $650 back.
Well, if you won the case, could you take him to a bankruptcy court and say you didn't pay up the bill?
Not for $650 plus costs. And if he goes bankrupt, it's guaranteed you're not going to get paid in full.
Steve, just quickly before I let you go, Steve, how's your dog?
My dog, she's good. She had a big hole torn in her ear, and she
okay
had
now?
another bite in the paw, and she was very good. She's just a pup of 11 months.
What sort of breed is she?
She's a boxer and a Staffy cross.
Right.
She's a gentle little soul, but she just loves to play chasey, and she approached the dog to play chasey, and this dog...
And they got into a fight. Yeah, no, we don't need the full story. Steve, look, I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm sorry that we can't give you much joy today. That's a tricky situation for a pensioner to be in, though, David, to be left with this.
Yeah, I suppose it's sometimes you can't always choose the quality of the people that you want to deal with.
No, I get that.
And, he may well have an action against the person who owns the other dog. My real worry is whether the person who he's got the claim against has the wherewithal to pay any judgment that might follow.
Our number is 1300 222 774 if you'd like to call in. David Whiting is with you until past, so you've got about 17 minutes to get some legal advice if there's an issue you'd like to have resolved. Peter in Clayton, what's going on?
My mother owns a gently sloping suburban block, and it fronts onto a street. The house was built in the late 1950s, and at the same time, a double brick wall about 2-3 feet high was also built on the street frontage. One day the council came along in their wisdom, didn't say anything, and just bulldozed their side of the land to build a footpath so that the foundations of the brick wall are now exposed. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that a council-owned easement runs perpendicular to the brick wall. The brick wall about 3-4 decades ago was increased to about 6 foot high for privacy. And over the last 3-4 years, the brick wall has actually started to crack and actually warp. Now, we're talking about a double brick wall. This is something that's really solid.
Mm-hmm.
The council contacted the council about 3 years ago, and they did nothing. And on a subsequent call, they eventually came out. They put a camera down into the easement, and indeed the easement is actually badly
I might
damaged.
get you to come to your question. What issue do you want to try and get solved here, Peter?
The issue is that the easement is causing damage. It's seemingly causing damage to the brick wall. And if it continues like this, the warping and the cracking, there's potential for it to perhaps collapse like the wall did at Swanson Street a couple of years ago, killing 2 people. And, the council are doing nothing. They said that there's a gaping big hole on my mother's side of the property. They're not doing anything. They said they'd fill it up. They're not willing to fix up the easement. The holes in the easement are actually on their side. But the damage slowly continues to happen. And, just twiddling our thumbs.
David, what do you think?
Peter, the general proposition is that if you have council on the other side of a fence, the obligation to construct the fence is yours. So generally speaking, you can't compel a council to share in a fencing cost. All right? But what you can do is that the council is doing something that causes damage to the fence, you can hold them responsible for the damage. If you think that the council is failing to maintain their own assets and that's causing a problem with your property, then you could take it up with the Victorian Ombudsman if you can't get the answer you want from council. So I would start with I would go back to council, probably even talk to your councillor as opposed to the officers at council. If you don't get what you want there, complain to the Ombudsman, because it seems to me that the council hasn't even reported to you about what they've found when they've gone through and investigated what's in the easement.
Okay, is that useful, Peter?
Yeah, so they did actually report that there was damage in the easement, but they've done nothing ever since. And of course, the issue also is what happened about in the late 1950s when they just bulldozed their side, exposing the foundations to the wall. I mean, can anybody come along and bulldoze their side of the property to expose somebody else's foundations?
David?
I would only feel comfortable. It's a general proposition, no, Peter, but we're talking about work that was done a very long time ago, and I wouldn't feel comfortable giving you any advice without seeing it. So I think you need to work out precisely what council did, and one of the things that you might raise with them is you want them to put it back to the way it was before they did the work.
Good luck with that, and we hope that's helpful. Jim in Ringwood, how can we help? I'm sorry, I think I just haven't got you on the line there. Just one second. We did have some phone line troubles. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Go right ahead.
Oh, hello.
You're on air, Jim. Go right ahead. How can we help
thank
you?
you. Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. It's to do with my mother's obligation to pay a fee. She hasn't had any services nor received an invoice yet. She's 85 years old. She's trying to organise her will. She had a meeting of about an hour or so with a solicitor who visited her home back in April, and she still hasn't to discuss the will and what she wanted, and she hasn't been able to get any response from this person at all. She's emailed them 3 times, she's called 3 or 4 times, and just nothing. So she wants to actually go and find another solicitor local, but she's concerned that she might get a bill from the previous one who hasn't really appeared to have done anything. What do you advise, David?
I would start by withdrawing instructions. I would get your mother to email the lawyer that she's spoken to and point out that in the last 6 months nothing has been done as a result of the meeting, and that therefore she's now withdrawing the instructions and taking the work somewhere else. If the lawyer at that stage is silly enough to give her a bill, then she goes and talks to the Legal Services Commissioner, and she disputes that any services that she got value from were provided. In fact, I would have thought in one instance that the discussion, the hour or so that they spent together, would have had some value, but it really only has a value to your mum if it's reduced to writing in a will she can sign. So I would withdraw the services, fire the lawyer is the best way to describe it, and if a bill comes, make an immediate complaint to the Legal Services Commissioner.
Okay, Jim, will that be
Legal
useful?
Services Commissioner. Yes, that's useful. I just need to give it a bit more confidence to take the next step.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think with that advice you can.
I would do that.
Yeah, good. Jim, good luck. Hope that goes well. Katie in Daylesford, how can we help?
Hi, VT. Hi, David.
Hi.
I've got, friends have a farm that we work on, and it's got horses on the property that belong to the previous owner. And basically, they're refusing to take them off the property. I'm just wondering what they can do.
I would ring the pound and to say that the horses have been abandoned. Would the council come and collect them, please?
They've made a few calls here, Katie, and they get no response?
Yeah, they've gone through the whole process. They've done phone calls, and they purchased it off these people who refuse to take them off. There's about 50 horses or so, and they're continuing to have foals, and one's recently died on the property and just rotting away, the poor bugger. We can't remove it.
Oh, my goodness.
No machinery to get it away with.
And is anyone feeding them?
Yeah, that's the weird thing, is the wife is coming and feeding them practically every day, but they're refusing, and they've got property to move them to. They're just refusing to do it, and they've sent legal letters. They've done everything. I've spoken to a friend who's in the police force to see if there's anything they can do, but they can't because it's a civil matter. But yeah, they're just simply at a loss.
Does that change things, David, when the owner of the horses is still tending to them?
It does, but given that there are 50 of them and not one or two, I would probably be talking to the RSPCA because there's more to looking after animals than just feeding them.
Absolutely.
So if all this person is doing is feeding them, then the answer, I'd be talking to the RSPCA and say whether in practical terms they're receiving the care that they ought to have from their owner.
It is sounding now, Katie, more like an animal cruelty story, to be honest. And that is one way of solving and also solving the situation for those animals so they're better treated. Try that.
Yeah, I think we will. Is there any way we can go down the path of trespass?
Because someone rents the property?
No, they're not even renting it. They won't pay for it either. Like, they've tried to even send them invoices for agistment, and they're like, no, we're not paying that. They're really, really arrogant.
I would be talking to the bylaws officer at Hepburn Shire.
Okay.
And find out whether there's something that could be done in relation to the animals being transferred to the pound.
All right, beautiful.
But I'm pretty damn sure that the pound will not be big enough for 50 horses.
No,
it definitely is not. Yeah. And I wonder if also because they are being fed, that won't be a thing for RSPCA. But we'll get them to try the Shire.
Yeah, and I think David might be right. It's not just about the feed. They need to be looked after and ridden and exercised in other ways too. So it could even be neglect. Good suggestion, David. Good luck, Katie. Peter in Preston, what do you need?
Good morning. My daughter and her partner purchased a property which they're building on, and I've got some money sitting in the bank which I want to lend to my daughter to offset the loan that they've got for the time being till I need it. I'm just wondering, so it doesn't become money that's involved in case they ever separate, what do I need to do?
Well, if I were you, Peter, I'd lend the money to both of them, just not to your daughter.
To both. So what happens if they separate?
What I want you to do is think of it like this. Your daughter and her partner have purchased a property as joint tenants.
Yep.
Right? Now, what that means is should your daughter die before you ask for the money back, then she won't have any assets. Her super will go to her partner. Her interest in her property will go to the partner. There will be nowhere from which your money might be paid back.
Right.
So I would be recommending a simple loan agreement between you and them.
Right. So it's in both their names.
Well, what you ultimately want to make, one of the things that I would be asking for is that I would want to be repaid if my daughter died upon the giving of a reasonable notice in the event that somebody tries to deal with the property.
Yep.
So you look at the events pursuant to which you might say, well, I'll give you 6 months' notice before I want the money back.
Right.
If my daughter dies, I want the money back in 6 months. If you sell the property, I want my money back at settlement. And you would probably also want to include in the loan agreement something called a charging clause.
Right.
It would allow you to put a caveat over the property. So they would charge their interest in the property with the due and punctual repayment of the money.
Okay.
Right. Do I have to see a solicitor about this, or do I do it myself? Can I do it myself?
You can always do it yourself. If you get it wrong, there's no one else to blame. That's sometimes a problem. How much you're lending them?
Oh, a couple of $100,000.
And we're now getting mean about making sure I'm adequately protected.
Right. Yep.
So spend $1,000 on the lawyer and lend her $199,000.
Fair enough.
That's a very sensible suggestion and protective of a very important relationship here as well, David. You've got to make sure that they come out of the loan situation with the relationship as protected as possible, don't you?
Well, and the way you do that is by being really upfront and clear about what it is you're endeavouring to achieve.
Yeah. The money's not worth it if it ends up, buggering up a relationship between father and daughter. Steve in Kilsyth, hello.
Yeah, good morning, David. My mum and dad are in their 80s and 90s, and once a week they go to a local shopping centre for groceries. A year ago, the shopping centre was doing some building works. Mum came out the front and tripped on a ramp that the builder had installed. She was taken to hospital, and since then she's had physio every week. We've contacted the shopping centre, and they basically don't want to do anything about it. They say it's the builder's responsibility. Just wondering what we can do.
Which is quite possibly right. There will be an area in the shopping centre that the builder will have been responsible for on the day.
Right.
And was a report made at the time?
Well, the ambulance was called and it was a follow-up letter to the shopping centre.
Okay, that should be a good start. Steve, so make the claim on the builder.
Right, okay.
And I take it what you're really looking for is the medical expenses?
That's correct, yeah. It's about $80 a week. Yep.
Okay.
How messy does it get, David, making a claim on a builder? I mean, how successful are those claims on builders, or do they just, vanish into the woodwork?
Well, it will be the shopping centre will require the builder to have a public liability insurance policy in place. So I would expect that if Steve's mum claim has merit, then Steve's mum will get the medical expenses reimbursed.
Okay. Good luck. Well, hopefully, if you have any problem with the shopping centre actually connecting you with the builder, then definitely come back and give us a call. Beth in Sunbury, we'll see if we can fit you in before we talk finance. Hi, Beth. What's going on?
I'll be brief. We've got a problem with one of the major Big Four banks. Through VCAT, my father was given my sister his financial power of attorney.
So he was made his administrator, was it?
Yes. We went through VCAT, and he had a medical assessment that deemed that he wasn't financially capable of managing his affairs.
Yep.
And we went to the bank and said, look, we need to do this, this and this. And they said, we're not prepared to discuss this with you. So my sister got the VCAT people on the phone and they had a 3-way conversation, and the bank just said blankly, I refuse to honour this agreement. And she had to walk out the door.
Beth, two things. I would be talking to the banking industry ombudsman who is there to solve these kinds of problems. Banks don't like administration orders. They tolerate administration orders. Banking industry ombudsman is where I would start. You might also... I would probably start and finish there. There will also be a complaint section with the bank, and you might also talk to the Australian Banking Association, which represents banks, because they will have policies on these kinds of documents. I'm the administrator for a couple of people. I actually needed to wait till the original order came from VCAT and take it to the bank before I could get them to do anything.
Yeah, she did that.
Yep. Then the answer would be, you could take the bank to court on the issue. Yep.
The Banking Ombudsman and the Australian Banking Association
is where I would go, yes.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Good luck. Thank you. Beth, thanks for calling in. David, great advice there. Thanks so much. We'll chat next week. We might even get to see you. Who knows?
That would be nice. Thank you very much.
David Whiting there, and he'll answer your calls again next Tuesday.